Hello, everybody. Welcome. Just kind of getting eased into this live streaming thing, trying to get everything all set up. Not real sure if the music's playing. It is just like non existent. Where did it go? There it goes. Okay, it was between songs. Welcome to the Wednesday night teach in. Glad you could join me, even if you're watching later on the video. And I am real glad that you take the time to watch those because I would like to teach things and I know I just can't live stream to everybody's schedule. So they're there for when you're ready to watch and learn something. I don't really have anything that I'm going to put up in the chat about what I'm doing, but I put underneath the camera right here where I'm working, I put the title because the big fiber combs that I'm working with tonight are called Indigo Hound. And they also are often called non-handheld because you can't hold them. They have to be braced in a mount when you use them. They're called five tine, and each of these metal rods with the point on them are tines, and they are what the fiber gets pushed down onto and also combed through. And the fact that there are five of them here makes it good your for two reasons. It makes it good for your wools and your bulkier fibers, not your tiny short staple lengths, but your real long staple lengths. And it also will help if you have multi coats to, or you have a lot of shortcuts and things you want to get out and only get the longer stuff. It's going to help separate all that out by having the multiple rows here to catch that. And the reason that is because you're pulling it through at these different ones. If it doesn't get caught on the first, it can get caught on the second or the third. And so the more rows you have, the more likely everything that you want to come out and just be in your top is going to show up in the, everything you want out of the top is going to get caught in these five rows of tines. So they're called five tine combs, and they're made by the Indigo Hound company. Don't know if they're still available. I've had mine a long time, and that's one of the reasons. The very first thing I'm going to be doing here is sharpening the tines points here that are they're bent down a little bit in the process of using them, and I have been using them a lot. These little tips are kind of soft, and they will hit the wood of the other comb or maybe the other tines, and they bend just a tad. And when you get that bend right there, that unfortunately catches your fiber and snags, and then you don't have a good combing experience. You're fighting the tool instead of having the tool work for you. I did check, and the way I check is just very gently run my finger down over the tip. These are very sharp. I draw blood often with them, and it comes from not paying attention. When you use something like this, you have to truly be focused and pay attention to what you're doing. You can't be in a hurry. And you also probably won't do it too long because they are heavy. And there is some repetitive motion, just like any kind of carding or combing or knitting or spinning. It has its own repetitive motion. So I generally comb, if I'm going to, for about 30 minutes. And that's all I'm going to do, but I might do it days in a row. And over the years that I've had these, I have found out when I was using them the last time, they are a little bit in need of that bent over tip, straightened out and sharpened up a little bit. And so that's what we're going to do first. I realize that I'll probably make some clips of this. I'm a little behind in doing that. It takes some time, and it has been a real push to get everything done that needs to be done outside right now. We work in between bouts of rain showers. It's been extremely wet summer, and so in order to get it done, I'm on. It tells me when I got to do it, not me decide when I'm going to do it. So I have not done some of the most recent teach-ins. I haven't done the videos yet, but I have a huge library, and if you just go to the twitch.tv and then to my channel, you'll see, and click on videos. That's the best way to bring them up. And scroll down a little bit and you'll see clips. And they're short, they're 30 seconds. And it's a really good way to see a highlight of what I talked about and taught in a particular teach-in. And then if you like it, you will have a place that you can click and go to the whole thing and watch the whole thing. And by the way, well, this only is if you're live. If you come see me when I'm live, you can make a clip. There's a place down at the bottom where you're watching. You might have to hover so that it pops up, but it's down on the right hand side, and you can make a clip. And it will be saved on my channel, but then you will have a record of something that maybe you want to remember about from what I was talking about. Got my ice water tonight. Oh man, it's just hot and humid. I am so ready for fall. I just can't hardly stand it. Now these come in pairs, so I have 2 to do, but I have done the first 4 here. 5. I've done the first 5. And by the way, that's a good point. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of these all the way across. In all 5 rows, so 50 of them. But as I was starting to say, I have already checked all the short ones, and they are not damaged in any way, because this outer row is the first thing to catch everything, and it is where it's going to clink and bend a little. So it's really only these that I have to worry about, and I need to start. I have 3 left here that I need to do. I really wish I could magnify this more. I tried putting it up closer to the camera and it's all blurry and you really can't see it. It just needs... I was looking to see if I had a magnifier glass. I don't think that would work though, but I thought maybe I might try that. We're going to play a little bit here. This might not work at all, but let's see. Oh, looky there. Maybe. Boy, let me clean this first. It's all dusty. Sitting back there. Let's see if this will work. I have to work with the camera. Okay. Go this way. Go this way. Still can't really see the little bit of bent. Unfortunately, a little bit of bent tip. So what I'm using is just a file, and obviously it's been around a while, and all I really want to do is make sure that I hold on to the one that I am going to work on. And the second thing I wanted to say, I should say, is I have this braced in here, and this is what braces it. It's a wooden dowel that fits into a hole in the wooden part here and goes down into a hole in the comb, and that will become important as I work with the combs. You'll see that later, but right now this is just holding this in place. It's not a complete in place hold. See, I have that much wiggle to it. Okay, so I have to be aware that it'll move and what it's going to do. So I want to make sure that I grab behind the one, and then I'm just going to pull this way. Now this is the part where you might want to turn your sound off, because I can't avoid it. I don't think it's that bad, but... And it's almost done. This was the worst one, by the way, the one I'm doing right now. Almost. Ooh, that's getting smooth. I hardly feel anything there now. Yep. So I got that one good. The one that's next to it is the other side, ironically. That's a little harder to hold. This one feels smooth, but it looks bent. I still have a little bit of a bump on this one. And you can see I'm being cautious, but very gently just filing the point down a little bit on each one. I like that. I think that's really pretty good. I'm going to take a look at it. This way. Is it still in the camera? It's funny, I still am not happy with that third one. It was really bad. Let's see if I can go this way with it. Yeah. Alright, since I have already worked on that one, I'm going to go ahead and get the other one out. This little box cover came with the comb. I'm working in kind of tight quarters here, but that's the way it's stored when I store them in this box container. And I have the other one sitting right over here. I have my light set up, so it may look real glary to you, but it helps me see a little bit. Now, let's see if I can get this. Okay. Now you can't really see the back rows. I don't know if I can move this more. Oh, wow. That might work. Not really. But this is the same way. It has the 5 rows, and only the outer one has 10, so I said the 50 wrong. There's 10, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I see a pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 to each row. And I am just checking each row, but I can tell I'm not going to have to do anything. And I'm kind of glad, because I don't think I would be able to get my file in as good as I can on the back row. Okay. There's one. This is not as bad. I didn't realize that. I hadn't checked ahead of time. Otherwise, I probably would have saved the first one. But this one really isn't as bad. I'm not real sure why that is. Just the way it got used. Once you start combing, you got a pattern going. And the same comb is getting loaded, the same comb is being used to card off of that. The next same time is you take everything off and you start over with the same comb. So one comb tends to be the one that does the actual passing down through the fiber, and the other one tends to be the one that holds it. And you can go back and forth just like you do with hand combs, but it's usually more that I do passes so that it all gets on one comb and then pull the top is the way I usually do it. But we'll get into that. Okay, this one's a little... Let me put it down. Move this away and give me a little more room to work. Now there's a... See, when I really, really start feeling really good, I run into the little hooks that are on there. The last time I was combing, I could really tell this needed this really bad. You would chunk into the fiber, and all of a sudden it was like stop immediately because it was getting snagged on the little hooks on the end of the tines. So it was beginning to get real annoying, and that's why I knew I had to do this. Hey, hey, Bob and Maid. Glad to see ya. Playing with pointy stuff. Almost done, actually. This is about the end of it. Yep, I got a hook right there. Okay, I think that's pretty awesome. I think I'm done with that. We'll give it a test run here and see how it does. You'll have to watch the VOD. There was less to do than I thought. When I first thought up of this for tonight, I was like, oh, well, that'll take at least 30 minutes. But it was really only maybe, 4 or 5 on each one of the combs of the 4 or 5 of the 10 that had the little hooks on them that needed filed off. So there wasn't as much to do as I had anticipated. Now I'm going to have to figure out what room I need, and then I'll figure out the camera. So give me a minute here because I need room. Okay, that's pretty good. All right, we'll see how. I'm not going to be able to really watch or pay attention to the mic, but we'll see how it works, and you guys can tell me if I need to, in the chat, if I need to move something. I am working with Shetland. This is, where's the camera? This is dyed with walnut, black walnut hulls, okay? And there was a bunch of different things I did, but this one is Shetland. I also did some Corridel, and I have different colors because I did different processes, and that's like a total different time to talk about. But I can tell you, I think I have the process. No, maybe I don't have the process here of what I dyed it, how I dyed it with. I should have. Nope. All right. This was probably the, I soaked them for a long time and the liquid got real brown. And it was, I strained that and used that. So this is probably what this is. It's very long stapled Lots of length to it. And with all combs, you just lightly load it on there by letting it catch and pull. And you want to make sure that you have not really loose stuff. So this stuff I'm going to reload so it catches. Now, I'm doing exactly what you shouldn't do, and that is I am not using a very stable table base to comb on. And especially with these large tined ones, you need to have pretty sturdy. I usually have this clamped to a workmate, which is a big hefty metal bench that they put in workshops and put tools on. So that was impossible to move to the cameras. The cameras were impossible to move to the workmate. I didn't want to try and do it with my iPad or, well, I can't do it with the iPhone, but my iPad. I don't have a good place to prop it up there. So long story short, I am going to do this very carefully and not pull hard, because otherwise it's all going to come towards me. Now, the comb has two clamps. You load it by putting the back one in and filling your fiber on. That puts your tines up. You comb with your tines to the side, and so the holes are offset so that you can load it this way. And then you put your fiber so it's somewhat spread apart, and you sit very unladylike. And I'm going to have to put my foot on there. And you pull. You comb and pull. Normally I wouldn't have to put my foot on there to comb. I had my hands out of the way and that whole 9 yards. So it's not going to be a real successful example, but it's doable. I'll just take my time. I also am very aware where those tines are. I don't want to be getting them scraping across my leg. I don't want to be getting them running into my hand. But you can see I got a puff here. And I'll set this one up. I got a puff here. And I don't use a Diz. I am not going to use a Diz tonight, let me put it that way. Too much to mess with. But I have used a Diz in the past. And you just pull your top off. Very gently. Until no more wants to come off. And I didn't get a whole lot because I didn't really do the best of combing. So we're going to do that over again. Pull my top off. This one will come off easier. There is less in the back because it's the comb that pulled the fiber off of the one that you loaded. So I'm going to get a better top off of this one. And that is nice. That is very nice. And usually I take what's left over from my big combs and drum card it. I'm trying to find the camera. Because it just depends on the fiber. If there was a lot of neps in there, but this will drum card really nice. So this I will keep and do bats that I will use for something else. Now this is ready to load. That's why you don't have to change combs, and you just go ahead and load them. I do pull it apart, you know, get it opened up. I love the feel of Shetland. It's just, I don't know, it's just so woolly. It just feels like real wool. Of course it is, but it feels like wool's supposed to feel. None of this. It's soft. It really is soft. It just has that I'm from a sheep attitude, you know? And this is Shetland John, so it's from a ram, too. But it's soft for being a ram. Okay. I am a professional. Do not attempt this at home. I knew it was going to be a problem on this table. I wonder if I angle this. It might help a little bit. I can figure out where to put my foot. Then I can pull it like that. That works better. I'm going to do this second pass. I didn't do that on the first one, but we're showing everything off here. So I'm going to do a second pass. Spread out what got combed. Comb it onto this. And as you can see, most of it came off. Most of it's here. And I'm hoping that it'll pull off a pretty good top. I'll go ahead and try and take this off. But sometimes you get really thin. I still spin it, but you know, you just get really short, thin pulls of top. And if you were using a diz, you would start your end here and pull through it. When I was first working, there's a whole bunch of colors I did of this Shetland. And when I was first working with combing all of those colors, I was dizzing it, and I finally said, no, I don't really need to do that. Okay, so by making that second pass, I got twice the length up top. Bauman Maid says, I want actual wool combs. Do you want the kind that the men, medieval men used to use and comb a whole pound at once? Tack them up on the barn wall and comb a whole pound of wool. That's the folklore I hear. Anyway, was that's why men were the workers that did the wool combing. I'm happy with this size. It gives me enough um, ability to do the really long fiber. It does alpaca really well. It does all the different longer wools of sheep. Um, it won't work with short stuff like Angora. It won't work with, um, your down breeds that are real short, or your other fibers like that. You have to have enough staple length to get at least caught at the back and come out past the 5 rows and have something to comb outside. So you can see that you're pretty much wanting at least 6 inches to start with. Medieval torture devices. We, yeah, right. Something wicked this way comes. I know. Um, have never had a picker and considered it, but when you looked at the fiber budget and all, it was like at the bottom of the list. I'd get another wheel before I got a picker. If I was raising sheep and lived on a farm and selling the fiber, absolutely, I'd get a picker. I just do it by hand though. Oh, look at the tips on that. That is from the dye pot. I mean, it looks dirty, but that is where the dye it's just full on the tips. And when I open those tips up, and that's of course what's going to happen, you can see it just practically goes away. Those are just the tips of the locks. It really probably laid at the bottom of the pot. This is kettle dyeing, so it probably laid at the bottom of the pot and soaked up all that stuff on the bottom. One of my favorite places to do this combing, besides the fact I have it set up on a workmate, is on my front porch. I have a picnic bench, and it's a big, long, heavy picnic bench, and I can attach these to the ends. I can attach my base there to the end and comb outside on my porch. Very pleasant in the right kind of weather. Now I have a knot. There's my camera. I have a knot right here on the very short back tine. See that? And that's really holding up everything, so I'm going to get that off there. Well, these comb like just going through butter now. No snags, no tags. It's awesome. So much better. Forget what I'm doing. Your Poland fiber. So I'm going to take the time and pick this apart more than I thought I'd have to, since I saw that knot and these little interesting ends. I'm probably not in the camera. I'm just picking it apart here. Other than the fact you have to watch out for really pointy things, it's kind of a relaxing process. I don't know why I get a lot of this kind of stuff. And I don't like trying to comb that. Kind of looks like it almost felded into a little bit of a yarn or something through the dyeing process. You know, excuse me a minute. I am not happy with this music. I don't know why it is not going to the next one. Hey, Sherry Ham. Glad you're here. This is Shellen. And it is dyed with black walnuts. And I forgot to put up my fiber command for this so you could tell, but it's alright. I don't mind telling you. Black walnuts came from my tree, and I can tell you an interesting article I read about what they call walnut pickers, and it's mostly in Missouri in the United States. It's black walnuts are not the most, 90% of the walnuts harvested in the United States are like out in California or other places like that, but they are English walnuts. And black walnuts are bitter. It's an acquired taste. A lot of people like to bake with them, and that's why this is fighting me. I gotta fix this. I guess I can't talk and comb. Anyway, there is a certain time of year when the walnuts come out, and people go out with buckets and this little thing they roll along the ground that basically scoops the black walnut up. But black walnut is very big. It is not quite the size of a baseball, but definitely bigger than a golf ball. So it is a fairly large nut, and if you want to walk along and bend over and pick them up, that's one thing. But most people that harvest them go out and rake them one direction and then roll this little thing and pick them up and put them in a bucket. And they will go as far as 700 miles to the only processing plant in the United States for black walnuts, to sell them. And it's their Christmas money. It's their families have been doing it forever. And I thought that was just kind of an interesting thing because it was like, I'll be darned. There's you know, I've got a black walnut tree. Not many people have them, ironically. So I took and collected black walnuts last fall, and it's getting close. They haven't started dropping yet, but I'm going to redo this. They will in the next month, 6 weeks. And I put them in a bucket, great big lidded bucket that we get kitty litter in, and I filled that full of black walnuts, and then I covered them with water, and I left them on my porch. And so they were outside during the winter. It didn't freeze on my porch, so it didn't actually freeze, but that they just soaked the entire winter. And then I did took and poured that really black water off, strained it, and used it to dye this fiber by putting it on the stove, heating it up. I did put a little vinegar in it, but it really doesn't need it because it's not an acid dye. It really doesn't need it, but helped the smell a little bit. It was not the most pleasant dyeing pot smell. Not like lichens. I have dyed with lichens, and that is the best aroma. I love the smell of lichen dye. As long as you're not using the ammonia. That makes it awful, but regular, just plain lichens smell good. Oh, I guess I'll do it this way. Yeah, ammonia makes everything smell bad. It sure does. I don't like it at all. Cherry Ham, since you joined us late, I'll give you the safety tip. If you do something like this with this size of combs, be sure you attach it to a much more sturdier base than I have this. I had to do this for the setup for the, I said podcast, I was going to say podcast, for the live stream. I usually have it set up on a much, much sturdier workmate. So just be careful if you don't want to pull it over towards you, pull it down on you. And this that I'm pulling off mostly has very good, just short. It's got a few really short that would make bumps and bats, but it's going to card pretty good. So I will card this up. I'm not throwing it out. A lot of times when you do comb, though, what you get is waste, and it isn't even worth keeping. Not at all. Yeah, points. Yeah. Well, hello, Kristen. Glad you joined us. Sometimes you have to make do. That is very true, especially with cameras and all of that, computers and all that. But I'm happy to make do because I like showing this off. So there's on these combs, there's this base, and what if you haven't noticed already, the holes on this is offset so that if you're going to be combing, you want your point tines pointing down, not down, but away, either right or left. You can do right or left, whatever's most comfortable for you. But if you're working with pulling top off or loading, then you put them straight up. And that's different than handheld combs because with handheld combs you can hold them, whichever way you want, really. Now I stopped on this because this was getting not real smooth. In fact, you can see I got some junk there. So we're going to start over with this. I'm just going to keep this top right. Where's my camera? Right there. Even this has a ooh in it. Let me put this down out of the way. This is adding up here. See there? Nice piles of fluff. Well, I sure don't like the camera that far away. I'm having trouble finding it. Maybe that'll help a little. Owie, got a sticker. Who let that sheep out in that field? Sherham asked if there's a particular reason I chose to do a long soak on your black walnuts rather than a slow simmer to extract the dye. And have you tried dyeing with acorns? No. I, one of the most common trees, and I don't have an acorn tree. I don't have an oak tree. I have several kinds of nut trees, pecans, and um, an English walnut and a black walnut. Um, and the reason is because we planted them. When we bought this place, it was completely bare of any kind of trees, and that's what we planted. And we just didn't plant oak trees. I was going for nuts that humans consume. Of course, the squirrels came as soon as the nuts did, but that's another story. They're going to do that anyway. So the answer to that is I actually did it both ways. And what I did was the soak over the winter. I just caught my finger, but I don't think I drew blood. Um, it was a matter of timing. This is, late fall. We're coming up on the holidays. It's busy. And I just did that as a convenience and left them on there, knowing that if it ruined the hulls and all that, I still would have the dye in the water that was on it. Then, when I actually poured the dye off, I kept the black walnuts, and a black walnut has an outer green husk, and they were they were extremely softened, but I didn't take them off, and then the walnut itself. When I did some reading and researching about dyeing with it, it said that the hull, that green part, is actually the part most people use to dye with. Besides using the leaves and all that, the actual black walnuts themselves aren't really as effective as a dye. So when I was soaking it, I probably was just soaking it out of the green hulls. But anyway, I did both. I started with the Shetland and did the liquid and got this color. And then I took the hulls and I put them exactly the way you're talking. I put them in a big pot, covered them with water, and did a long, slow simmer. And I thought, oh, I'll not get any more color. Surely I won't get any more color. And I got so much more color out of that. And when I did the Corriedale that I dyed with that, I ended up with a reddish brown and really, really pretty color. So I got a different color out of it also. I mess with those tips too much. I really shouldn't do that, but I guess it bugs me. Don't think there's going to be much to pull off of this one here. Pretty much all transferred. Don't want any of that. Yeah. Don't really want any of that. I'll put it in the drum carder. I did not use any mordant, Sherryham. It is considered a substantial dye, or however you say that, so that it doesn't need a mordant. Um, when I was rinsing, I took a little bit of vinegar, thinking that it might need to be set So, so it didn't rinse off, but really it didn't even need that. It was just plain dyed on there and washed off, rinsed off really good. Now, there could be probably other colors that I could get if I did use like alum or, copper or something like that. I didn't mess with any of that. I didn't really have it, but you can change colors in a lot of natural dyes by using different mordants. I had loaded too much on this, and that's why I took some off and combed it again. It wasn't going to pull off unless I did that. There's a lot of vegetable matter in this. A lot of it's falling out. It's all over my pant legs. But it'll fall out more too when I'm spinning it. The different colors, you mean because like the reddish brown from the hulls, I believe is a result of the hulls. And the hulls themselves actually had that red in them. Um, because my water's the same. So, the pH didn't change. And my um, heat extraction was different by actually cooking the hulls. Might have been, you're right, the heat extraction could have been a reason. But it has to be in the hulls. I could have done a heat extraction of anything. I could not have done a heat extraction of anything else. That's all I had, right, was the hulls and the nuts. And I did put them all in there. So it was either the hull or the nut. But when I read what I read, it said that the hulls are usually what they get for the dyeing. So, that was probably the whole reason it had a different color. I'm going to stop that for now, but I'll be happy to chat and answer questions or whatever. But we have reached our hour, and so I am going to stop. Like I said, when you do something like this, it's repetitive. I was kind of forcing things for me a little bit because I was holding on to it, working at a weird angle and the whole 9 yards. So when you do it, set it up to a really nice, comfortable, ergonomic position and watch how long you do it, and you'll have a lot of wonderful top when you work with these big combs. I am going to add some live streams. This is, for those of you that don't really know, the Tour de France bike ride is riding in France right now. And the spinners like to do their own event called the Tour de Fleece. We spin our wheels when the bike riders are spinning their wheels. And I have been watching the race, and I love that. I'm so excited about having that to watch because this has been a bummer of a year for anything exciting happening. I am not a bike rider, but it is like a little travel log because they do such good coverage of where they're riding and what's historic around it and interesting insights and things like that. So I do really enjoy it. But I have been spinning, and because of that, a lot of us spinners that are also live streamers on Twitch are putting on more live streams and just spinning. And we are going to do one on Saturday that's going to be a 24-hour spinathon. So we're going to start around 3 a.m. and it's on Saturday morning, and that's this coming Saturday. So that would be the 5th, I believe. Let's see, this is Wednesday, and it's the 2nd, so 3rd, 4th, 5th. It's going to be September 5th, and you'll have to just look for people spinning. But my time is very early, very different than what I normally live stream. It's going to be at 5:30 in the morning my time. Bob and Maid, you're going to be up? I don't think so. But it'll be interesting because I will just have my cup of coffee and I will be spinning on my Ara, and I will be on for 3 hours. Before that, I'm also going to do another stream tomorrow early from 11, what did I say? 10 a.m.? Uh-oh, I forget what I said. It's on my channel under schedule, but it's tomorrow morning. Okay. I think it's 9 to 11. It's 9 to 11. That's what I decided on, what I put down. And I'm just going to be spinning. So that'll be on Thursday and on Saturday, and then I have the regular Sunday spin in also. A lot of extra streams this time. So I hope that you can catch me if you're not busy and have a little bit of time, or maybe I can just chat along with you while you're doing whatever you need to do too. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining me. Sherry Ham and Kristen and Bama Maid, I sure appreciate seeing you and chatting with you. And I hope that this has been interesting and a little bit of information to learn. So I'm going to sign off now. Thanks, you guys. Until later. Happy spinning.